All right. One of the most amazing stories, and we talked about it briefly last week, Pito.
I didn't think it was going to get this big when
No.
we talked about it briefly last week.
And go ahead and spool Stephen up on the Oak Restaurant Hotline. Every football coach or every football coach has known of someone who has who's done something to the field. Take him down for a second. Has done something to the field to cause, to try to fire their team up, inspire their team up.
Especially rivalry weeks.
Yeah, and the Marion County folks tried to do this, and it opened a huge can of worms. We're joined by Stephen Hargis. He is a prep writer for the Times Free Press. Stephen, are you there?
I am, guys. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We've got some feedback. Are you listening on the radio or online?
No, I'm actually no other radio or anything else on just me.
All right, good deal. We can hear you now. Fine. Stephen, we appreciate. I think every time I talk is doing something. I'll tell you what, let's do. Stephen, can we call you back and try to get a better connection? Would that be okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, we're going to call Stephen back here in just a second. Rob, if you can try to get him on the phone again, and we'll try to get a better connection there. But in a nutshell, what had happened is the Marion County coaches painted their field house, some doors, some garbage cans.
Yeah. And South Pitt colors.
Yeah, in South Pittsburgh colors. And that stuff has happened before,
yeah, I've
different
seen it
places.
happen.
And it was vandalism. It is vandalism.
Sure.
But it was a little bit off the chain a little bit, and so they said, "Hey, look, we're going to press charges. We're going to investigate this and press charges." And man, it has blown up since then.
Yeah, I think that the administration stepped into a little bit more than they thought they were going to, and then it's gone from there, and we've read all about it.
All right, Stephen's back with us, and I know I could tell already we've got a better connection. Stephen, so a vandalism prank that a lot of coaches do, that's no secret. A lot of coaches do that, really went viral. And I guess two things. One, I'm amazed at how well you've written this story. This is an absolute great job by you. But just,
Well, I appreciate that.
Just how is the right word, inept this whole thing has been for the Marion County coaches? Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, I mean you can use any adjective you want to describe just stupidity. I mean there's no other way around it. When you look at some of the details of some of the things that they did and the way that they got caught with this, it was just grown men who are not stupid, but they did, they had some pretty stupid actions.
Yeah, and I want to plug your story. Folks can go out to Times Free Press, and you can check any of the links to the Marion County stories. Go back and check those, especially the Wednesday morning story, where I guess you guys got access to the text messages that the police had already gotten, and it
Correct.
really uncovered a lot of I was sitting there reading it with my mouth wide open. Were you too when you saw the transcripts?
Oh, absolutely. And once after talking with the investigators who were going to make the transcripts available to us, and they told me, brace yourself. Basically, you're not going to be able to believe some of the things that were exchanged between the assistants. And sure enough, when I got the text messages and then started reading through them, and it was amazing. Just how damning they were going to be for those assistant coaches and even the head coach.
Dennis Weaver, Josh Peterson here on Friday Night Thunder talking to Stephen Hargis. He's a prep writer for the Times Free Press and is one of the very best. Stephen, we had you on a couple years ago about this time talking about playoffs, and I apologize to you and I apologize for our listeners not to get you back on, but you've known a lot of those people in that area, and I'm sure that helped you with some connections. But this is more than just a news story to you. This is touching people that you have been around and covered closely, isn't it?
Yeah, that was probably the toughest part was guys that I've known for years, and you have a good working relationship with them, and you've worked with them, and you think you know a lot of these guys, and then when you start to see some of the things that they've done and the proof that there is of that they have actually done these things, that's a little unnerving. I'll be honest, and very disappointing. You have to kind of set all that aside and just do your job, though, and just say, okay, well, here are the facts. Here's what they're being charged with, and here's the proof of what they've done. So you have to set personal relationships aside and just say, I'm got to report this just as if it was somebody that I didn't even know.
Stephen, you followed up a little bit with that original story on the reaction, with the people in the Marion County community. Talk a little bit about that and what the community, kind of the temperature there towards that staff or ex-staff is, and how the players are kind of taking this all in right now, especially trying to prepare for a game.
Well, I compared it to somebody the other day to the heartbreak of breaking up a relationship, or you find out there's been something a betrayal of trust in a relationship. That's kind of the way the fans felt. They and the supporters, they went from denial, they didn't want to believe it, to then once you see the actual proof, they were pretty upset, pretty mad at the coaching staff that was involved in this. And after a while, you just start to feel bad for the kids who are involved in it, because they're having such a good season, and for this to kind of put a black cloud over their accomplishments. At some point, I think it was sometime around yesterday, and I know for sure today, the community really kind of just said, you know what, we're not going to talk about the knuckleheads that are in trouble right now. We're going to focus on supporting the kids. And then the community really wrapped it around today and gave the team a really nice send-off. They had all the middle school and the elementary school let out around 1 o'clock and gathered around the town square there, and had a nice police send-off with police cars from all 5 cities in the county, and supporters even from South Pittsburgh that their team, their principal allowed their football team and their cheerleaders to go to the neighboring town and kind of line the streets and send them off, wish them well, and cheer for them as the bus was making its way toward the interstate to head to Trousdale. So it was a thing where I think the community, even though they were upset with the coaches, and rightfully so, at some point they changed their focus toward the kids, and I think that was a really positive thing for the whole county.
All right, I know some of the stations on our network are worried about the break that's coming up in just a second. We're going to hold a little long here. Stephen, I wanted to talk, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Do you think that there was due process done in the hiring of Mac McCurry, because he's had a checkered past?
Well, and I spoke with the superintendent of schools and the principal, and they said they were made aware of some of the things, the DUI in his past, that he'd been at a couple of schools for a very short tenure, and there were reasons behind that he didn't seem to get along with the administration at those places. And I know at Crockett County, he was on there for about a week and a half before they withdrew their offer for him to be their head coach. But they said that really during the interview process that Max told them that, listen, I've done some things in the past I'm not particularly proud of. I'm a changed person. I just want to prove myself. And it was one of those things, everybody wants to give somebody a second chance. And that was what they decided, was that, he's been clean for a while. He was an assistant coach and did a nice job at Signal Mountain for a year. He's obviously can coach. I mean, the guy's won more than 200 games. Yeah. He's a good coach, and he really sold them that, they could trust him. And I think that was part of the reason for such, hurt feelings, especially for the administration, was because they really stuck their neck out on the line for this guy and believed in him when he told them in the interview process that they could trust him. He was going to be there for a while. I think they were really hurt. This was just his second season there, and they had gone through. He was the 7th coach in 16 years that had been hired there, and he gave them his word that he wasn't going anywhere for a while. And during all this, they also learned that he had interviewed at a school in Alabama, or was lined up to interview for a school in Alabama, and the administration really was just really felt betrayed by what he had told them, and then turned around and some of the things he's done since he's been there.
Well, I think if it was just spray paint, that this all would be washed under the rug and everything would go away. But everything else, it was just too much. And Stephen, you were content. I mean, you were not content to just put it on page 10 and go away. And I'm glad that you stuck with it. And folks need to go out and watch and read the Times Free Press and follow you on Twitter. Give everybody your Twitter handle, buddy.
Absolutely, guys. It's real easy. It's at Stephen Hargis, and Stephen's with a PH, STEPHEN, HARGIS. So it's at Stephen Hargis, and I try to tweet during games as best I can while I'm keeping stats, and obviously in between quarters and halftime and after games, and whenever we have breaking news, that's pretty much you can follow me there or just on timesfreepress.com.
All right, Stephen Hargis will be at the Fayetteville visiting a South Pittsburgh game tonight, and I know that folks on this side of the mountain, that's a big game for a lot of our listeners here, and so they can follow Stephen. Stephen, thank you so very much for your time, okay?
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
All right, Stephen Hargis, there is none better. We've run long. I apologize. Folks, the scoreboard is going to get updated more, and we're going to put that interview out there. This has been the pregame edition of Friday Night Thunder.